Alright, welcome to this evening's past channel on Samurai Warfare. My name is Hugh E. Butler, and I shall be your host for tonight. Well, shall we carry on then? Yes. Now we're not going to be covering the samurai themselves tonight, or the practices that they did, such as Buddhism or the Bushido Code, but more on the warfare that they did, from the early periods to the Shingoku period. Now keep in mind, we're going to be covering long before a samurai was written up, since no records were kept to the 12th century. Yes. Now the early samurai, they were single-mounted warriors, or known as ikuichi, and they were very trained in the skill of swordsmen, so they would make them very elite. Now, as I said before, the early samurai weren't known as samurai, of course. They were known as ikuichi, which meant single-mounted warrior. Yes, right. It was written in the Gunkimono, the war tales of the time, when a large-scale battle, ginormous, was about to take place. They would fire preliminary shots into the air. And of course, when they fire the arrow into the air, they'd be calling upon the kami, or the gods. Yes. And of course, the casualties for this was quite low. But of course, night and surprise attacks were very common at that time. During large-scale wars, except the Shokyu War and Mongol invasions. Now, the Mongol invasions hurt the Japanese very, very much, because they didn't know that foreign enemies fought in foreign ways. Yes. But they did call upon the divine wind, or kamikaze. Of course, World War II people like to think of it as the planes, but no, this was the divine winds at sea, and this hurt the Mongols very badly. This caused the Mongols to lose, and the Japanese to win. Yes.
Now, see, there was two swords. There was the Miramasa and there was the Mesamune. Now, the samurai would take the Miramasa and they would stick it in a standing creek, and when they would stick it in the creek, the leaves floating on the top of the surface would be cut in two by the blade. And then the Mesamune, they would stick this in the creek as well, and the leaves would part just by its presence. And it was said that the Miramasa was a terrible sword, and the Mesamune was just plain inhumane.
Now, the 14th century saw a rise in foot soldiers. They were very valued because the armor changed to the Domaru style, which is much more easier to move through than the cumbersome Yori. So this was valued very much for the movement of the samurai warriors. The major changes in this period were due to terrain and siege warfare. But all in all, the battle tactics were pretty much the same. Cavalry could easily overcome infantry, but infantry could easily overcome cavalry in CQC, or close quarters combat. During the Muromachi period, the samurai saw one of their most astronomical changes. It was during one of the many small wars they had up in the mountain, where the horsemen were at very, very, very low disadvantage. You see, the mounted warriors wouldn't have much mobility like they did up in the open field, and well, that showed the great increase of the Ashigaru. they were the lightly armored infantry. Now, you see, the Ashigaru were very lightly armored, and they were easily able to take down the heavily armored horsemen. The Ashigaru were members of the low class. They were very, very high in numbers. They acted as skirmishers instead of mass troops or single warriors. They were originally given bows and swords to fight with, but were famous for dropping their bows and introducing the spear to samurai warfare instead. The Sengoku period was a time of great change in logistics, leading to the samurai that most know of today. Large-scale wars forced a change in logistics. Now, having great numbers of Ashigaru was a great advantage. Not only that, but armies, including the Ashigaru warriors, became very well disciplined and organized. The large-scale wars even began to lead to alliances between armies. Now, the missile troops were put to great use. What would happen is they'd fire the arrow into the air, and if it was disoriented the opposing enemies, they would send their spearmen to charge forward. Now, the Ko-Gashira, or samurai lieutenants, were the ones who would mostly send in the infantry men, or spearmen. And he would send them in for the quick kill, as, of course, I would like to say. Thank you. Now, most of the samurai preferred to fight on foot. The major points of the Sengoku period are the arms race, the discipline of lower-class troops, and the self-discipline of the samurai, or as we know it today, the Bushido Code.
Shakanuga! Shakanuga!
May it be an evening star shines down upon you. May it be when darkness falls.
After the Sengoku period, battle tactics and logistics didn't change much until the introduction of gunpowder and guns. Now that brought to the downfall of the samurai as we know it. Now, since the end of the samurai, there's really nothing to look forward to now. So I'm Hugh E. Butler for the Past Channel, and tune in next time to when we watch Naval Warfare. Thank you, and God save the Queen. Thank you, love.